Welcome back to Notable Deaths USA. Today, in quiet reverence, we remember talented artists who have left us, some only in recent days. From Hollywood icons to rising stars, each brought a bright light to the world of entertainment. Until, sadly, they have gone too soon. Before we begin, your support helps keep these stories alive. Please give this video a like. Thank you for being here with us. Now, let's begin.
1.
He contacts over at state. I'm probably in better standing than Anna right now. Let me make a few calls.
As many of you may have heard, our beloved Tristan Rogers has passed away at the age of 79, following a brave and private battle with cancer. The news was confirmed on August 15th by his longtime manager, Meryl Sudak. Tristan was best known and deeply cherished for his role as Robert Scorpio on General Hospital. Originally cast for just one day in 1980, he turned that brief appearance into a defining presence across decades. His charm helped shape the show's golden era, including the unforgettable 1981 wedding of Luke and Laura, watched by 30 million viewers. Beyond daytime TV, Tristan's voice brought life to Disney's The Rescuers Down Under, and he earned a Daytime Emmy for his work on Studio City. Though his character was written off in 1992, his triumphant return nearly 15 years later reminded us all of the enduring power of his performance and the man behind it. Thank you for honoring him with your words, your memories, and your love. Your support means more to us than you can possibly imagine during this time of grief and remembrance. Tristan's spark will continue to shine in our hearts, and he will live on through the legacy he leaves behind.
Well, I think it was a family show, and of course, we had subject matter that everyone could relate to, so that's always good. And of course,
As many of you may have heard, our beloved Danielle Spencer has sadly passed away at the age of 60, following a long and courageous battle with cancer. The heartbreaking news was confirmed on August 11th by her brother, jazz musician Jeremy Pelt. Danielle first stole our hearts in 1976 as Dee Thomas on What's Happening, the sharp, no-nonsense little sister whose wit became a defining voice of her generation. She returned to the role in What's Happening Now, and later graced our screens in Days of Our Lives and As Good as It Gets. In 2014, her place in history was honored when she became the first child star inducted into the Smithsonian's National Museum of African American History and Culture. Her life, however, was shaped by profound challenges. A devastating car crash in 1977 left her in a coma, with lifelong injuries. Years later, she bravely fought breast cancer and faced ongoing spinal complications. Yet she rebuilt herself, becoming a veterinarian and a fierce advocate for animal care. Thank you for honoring her with your words, your memories, and your love. Your support means more to us than you can possibly imagine during this time of grief and remembrance. Danielle's spark will continue to shine in our hearts, and she will live on through the legacy she leaves behind. As many of you may have heard, the elegant and timeless Jane Morgan has passed away at the age of 101. Her family confirmed that she died peacefully in her sleep on August 4th in Naples, Florida, of natural causes. Jane first captured hearts in the post-war nightclubs of Paris, where her velvety voice and poised presence turned heads. She went on to record nearly 40 albums in 5 languages, lighting up stages from The Ed Sullivan Show to Broadway's Mame, and gracing the Oscars with her signature style. Her 1957 rendition of Fascination became a defining hit, selling millions and cementing her place in music history. But her path was never easy. A Juilliard student, paying tuition by singing in clubs, she took a leap of faith, leaving school to follow her dream across Europe. She later stepped away from the spotlight to focus on family, living with quiet dignity while leaving behind a career of global acclaim. Thank you for honoring her with your words, your memories, and your love. Your support means more to us than you can possibly imagine during this time of grief and remembrance. Jane's spark will continue to shine in our hearts, and she will live on through the legacy she leaves behind. As many of you may have heard, the legendary Sheila Jordan has peacefully passed away at the age of 96. Her daughter, Tracy Jordan, confirmed that she died in her sleep on August 11th in New York City, softly listening to the bebop melodies that shaped her life. She fell asleep listening to the music she loved and helped define, Tracy shared. Born in 1928 and raised in hardship, Sheila found her refuge in jazz. Drawn to the sound of Charlie Parker, she moved to New York in the 1950s, married pianist Duke Jordan, and later became a mother to Tracy. After their separation, she spent 25 years working as a typist by day and singing in clubs by night, not for fame but for the sheer will to survive and express. Her debut album, Portrait of Sheila, released in 1963, became a landmark in jazz history. She never stopped. Into her 90s, she taught, toured the world, and in 2012 was honored as an NEA Jazz Master, the highest recognition in her field. Her final performance and album, Portrait Now, arrived on Valentine's Day 2025. Thank you for honoring her with your words, your memories, and your love. Your support means more to us than you can possibly imagine during this time of grief and remembrance. Sheila's spark will continue to shine in our hearts, and she will live on through the legacy she leaves behind. As many of you may have heard, Kelly Mack has tragically passed away at the age of 33. Her sister, Catherine Klebanow, confirmed the heartbreaking news, sharing that Kelly died peacefully on August 2nd, surrounded by her loving mother and aunt, following a sudden and aggressive cancer relapse. Kelly was best known for her memorable role as Addie in Season 9 of The Walking Dead, where she quickly became a fan favorite. Her talent also shone in broadcast signal intrusion, and she proudly attended the Chicago International Film Festival. In April, despite facing immense challenges, she filmed a National Rakuten commercial alongside her mother and completed work on the feature film Universal, set for release. Diagnosed in January with diffuse midline glioma, Kelly underwent spinal surgery that left her partially paralyzed. Still, she faced her illness with extraordinary courage, using her story to uplift others and refusing to let hope slip away. Thank you for honoring her with your words, your memories, and your love. Your support means more to us than you can possibly imagine during this time of grief and remembrance. Kelly's spark will continue to shine in our hearts, and she will live on through the legacy she leaves behind.
Bap, Les said, what about brass? So that was that. But it's still a...
Tom Jones, more than a singer, more than an entertainer, the man with the golden voice, a cultural monument whose sound has reverberated across generations for more than 6 decades. Yet beyond the bright marquees and the thunder of applause lies a beginning marked not by glamour, but by quiet hardship. A childhood shaped by illness, austerity, and the stubborn resolve of a working-class boy from Wales. What kind of strength could carry a coal miner's son, confined for years to a sickbed, from the narrow streets of Treforest to the world's grandest stages? Before we look back together at what Tom endured and how he rose above it to become an unforgettable legend, if his voice has ever kept you company on long drives or family holidays, please like this video and share your memories of him in the comments below. Tom was born June 7, 1940, at 57 Kingsland Terrace in Treforest, Wales, to Freda Jones and Thomas Woodward, a hard-working coal miner. His earliest years unfolded in a community defined by grit and modest means, where the rhythm of life was measured by shifts underground and Sunday hymns above it. School held little charm for him, sports even less. But music was different. It was the one place he felt both rooted and free. At 12, illness struck with cruel force. Tuberculosis confined him to bed for nearly 2 years, a stillness that might have silenced a lesser spirit. He later spoke of those months as the darkest stretch of his young life, days that blurred into evenings while friends moved on without him. And yet, in that enforced quiet, something enduring took shape. He listened. He drew. He dreamed. Family gatherings and small celebrations became his first stages, the school choir, his earliest audience. A voice began to form, full-throated, unmistakable, tempered not in luxury, but in limitation, strengthened by solitude and the steady love of a mother and father doing their best. From those fragile beginnings emerged the promise of a life in song. The boy who once watched the world from a bedroom window would soon step forward, not with swagger, but with quiet strength, the kind that outlasts fashion, the kind that turns trials into testimony. From the factory floor to the footlights, Tom Jones's path was not paved with favors, but with calloused hands and a stubborn belief that a bigger life was possible. Before tuxedos and television specials, there was a young husband and father clocking long shifts on construction sites and in a glove factory, then hurrying to working men's clubs across South Wales to sing until closing. Those rooms were smoky, the pay small, but the lessons were large. Hold a crowd, hit the note, never leave before the last table stops listening. He first fronted a local beat group as Tommy Scott and the Senators. There were near misses that stung, a frustrating studio try with producer Joe Meek that yielded no deal, promising demos that went nowhere. Still, he kept showing up. One night in a cramped club in South Wales, manager Gordon Mills heard more than volume. He heard a once-in-a-generation grain in the voice. Mills reshaped the look, sharpened the set list, and, borrowing from a hit film, gave him a new name: Tom Jones. In 1965, Destiny stopped knocking and simply walked in. It's not unusual, didn't tiptoe onto the charts. It burst in, a brass-bright announcement that this Welsh baritone wasn't like anyone else. Weeks later, he was on American television, planting a boot on the lip of the stage and sailing high notes into living rooms from New York to Nebraska. Offers followed with dizzying speed. The sly sparkle of What's New, Pussycat, and a vault into cinematic grandeur with the James Bond theme, Thunderball. Back home, Green, Green Grass of Home, 1966, turned into a national embrace, a homesick hymn that felt as old as the valleys themselves. By 1967, he took the leap to Las Vegas, where a residency transformed him from rising star to force of nature. The legend took on its own life. Audiences tossing handkerchiefs, and soon far more daring tokens. Security struggling to hold the line. The band leaning harder into horn-driven swagger, while Tom prowled the stage with a boxer's bounce. It was spectacle, yes, but it was also craft. He learned to build shows in arcs, to hold silence as powerfully as a shout, to bring a room to its feet on command. Then came a new test of magnitude, a primetime variety series. This is Tom Jones. 1969 to 1971, beaming his voice weekly across the Atlantic. He didn't hide behind tracks, live vocals, live band, and the risk that comes with both. The show stretched him. Standards one week, roaring soul the next, and guest turns with legends across genres. And somewhere amid all that noise and neon, a quieter moment etched itself into memory. A friendship with Elvis Presley, kindled in the mid-60s and forged backstage in Las Vegas. Two kings in a city built for crowns, trading songs and stories deep into the night. The ascent wasn't a fluke, it was a discipline. When the singles cooled, he doubled down on the stage. When fashion shifted, he worked the room harder. By the early 1970s, She's a Lady carried him high on US charts, proof that the voice and the will behind it could still bend the moment his way. The boy from Treforest hadn't merely arrived, he had claimed his place, one show, one risk, one hard-won ovation at a time. A devotion tested by fame, Tom Jones's marriage began not with chandeliers and champagne, but with urgency and promise. On March 2nd, 1957, the teenager from Treforest married his high school sweetheart, Linda Trenchard, after learning she was expecting. Their son Mark arrived that same year, and in time would become more than a son. He would be Tom's manager and steady hand, the quiet guardian of a career that spanned continents. At first, life was simple and stern. Tom worked days, construction sites, a glove factory, and sang nights to keep the young family afloat. When the bookings grew and the spotlight widened, the center of gravity at home shifted too. Tom was often on the road. Linda, intensely private, kept a low profile, preferring a life far from cameras. In the mid-1970s, the family resettled in the United States, eventually purchasing a Los Angeles home once owned by Dean Martin, a symbol of how far the boy from Kingsland Terrace had traveled, and a sanctuary where Linda could remain out of view. But fame brought its own weather. Affairs, many of them became public, splashed across tabloids and whispered about in dressing rooms. Tom himself, with a candor that cut both ways, admitted to serial infidelity during his peak years, a boast he would later regard with evident regret. The consequences were not abstract. They reached into the household. In 1989, after a legal case and DNA testing, a court confirmed that Tom had fathered a son during a brief liaison with model Catherine Berkery. Financial support followed. A relationship did not. The episode left a lasting ache that no chart position could anesthetize. Through it all, Linda stayed, not out of naivete, but out of a conviction about vows made young and held tight. She disliked the circus, avoided premieres, and built a life of quiet strength behind closed doors. Tom, in his memoir and interviews, would return again and again to her steadiness, describing a woman who loved him without loving the apparatus around him. Tragically, in April 2016, Linda died of cancer. The loss struck like a bell no one could unring. In the months that followed, Tom sold the Los Angeles house, stripped of its laughter, and moved to a modest flat in London, keeping mostly photographs, held like talismans against the silence. Rumors later linked him to Priscilla Presley. He clarified that theirs was a long-standing friendship born of shared history, not romance. If the stage was where Tom burned brightest, home was where he learned the cost of fire. A husband imperfect, a father often absent, he nevertheless shouldered the duties of family in his own flawed way, relying on Mark's guidance, honoring Linda's memory, and carrying forward a promise she once pressed into his hand: to continue singing, but never forget the life that made the songs necessary. Every spotlight casts a shadow. For Tom Jones, the cost of brilliance was not paid only in late nights and hoarse mornings. It was paid in choices that followed him long after the cheering stopped. Fame made him visible. It also made his private missteps impossible to hide. Through the late 1960s and 1970s, serial affairs trailed the tours. Some were whispered in corridors, others landed on front pages. He spoke about them himself, with a candor that later felt heavy. One story cut deeper than gossip. Actress Cassandra Peterson later described a first encounter that left her injured and in need of medical care. In 1987, a brief relationship with model Catherine Berkery resulted in pregnancy. In 1989, a DNA test confirmed paternity. Financial support was arranged. A relationship with the child was not. He knew how to command a room. He did not yet know how to repair the rooms that mattered most. There were financial storms as well. After the 1974 election in the United Kingdom, tax rates for top earners climbed to punishing heights. Like many artists of his era, Tom became a tax exile and shifted his base to the United States. In 1976, he purchased a former Los Angeles home of Dean Martin. The house brought privacy and a sense of arrival. It also placed an ocean between him and the valleys that had first taught him to sing. Career weather changed with the times. The beat-driven singles cooled. Television variety had given him a weekly triumph with This Is Tom Jones from 1969 to 1971. Then fashions moved on. He answered by building stronger stage shows in Las Vegas, with horns that hit hard and arrangements that rose and fell like a tide. Years later, he made a stark turn toward gospel and blues, with Praise and Blame in 2010. An internal label email questioned the project. He replied on stage, not on paper. He delivered a flinty performance of Burning Hell on national television. The album entered the UK chart at number 2. It felt less like nostalgia and more like renewal. The body keeps its own record. As he aged, the top of his range softened, the lower register deepened. He spoke about it simply. What you lose at the top, you gain at the bottom. To stay roadworthy, he used inversion therapy for his back. He kept a demanding schedule, often more than 200 shows a year. The work itself became the proof that the voice still lived where it mattered. Then came the heaviest toll. Linda fell ill with cancer and she died in April 2016. The silence that followed could not be outsung. Tom sold the Los Angeles house. He moved into a smaller apartment in London. He kept photographs, small anchors against a larger ache. In public, he stood straighter than he felt. In private, he held to her last instruction: do not crumble, carry on. Today he carries on, not loudly, but with purpose, living simply in London where the morning light falls across framed photographs of Linda, and where the day begins with a kettle, a quiet scale, and a few long notes held until the room settles. He warms the voice the way a craftsman warms the hands, steady breath, careful vowels, no rush. He keeps a notebook on the piano. He writes small reminders to let the baritone lead, to trust silence before the swell, to give each lyric its full weight before moving on. Rehearsal is work, not ritual. He arrives early, stands at center stage while the house is empty, and listens to the room answer him back. If the echo is too bright, he changes the microphone. If the brass sits on the vocal, he asks the band to pull a hair. If the tempo hurries the feeling, he brings it down until the words can land. He chooses keys that honor the voice he has now, lower and darker, yet lit by the same intent that carried him through the years. On show nights, he keeps the steps simple. He checks the shoes, he checks the breath. He greets the audience without fanfare and lets the first song do the talking. The set moves like a conversation, a burst of joy to open the room, a quiet confession to draw it close, a gospel edge when the story asks for strength. Between songs, he offers a memory rather than a speech, a line about Treforest, a lesson from a dressing room long ago, a promise to carry on because someone he loved once asked him to. Then he sings, without safety net, and the hall leans forward as if to meet him halfway. Between tours, he tends to the tasks that keep a career upright. He marks troublesome vowels in pencil, he files sheet music, He sketches fresh transitions so the show breathes as one piece. He steams the room before a long rehearsal. He cools down with quiet stretches. He treats the body like an instrument that deserves respect. He mentors younger singers with the plain truths he once needed. Serve the lyric, respect the band, stand still when the words are heavy. Let the audience come to you. He does not promise shortcuts. He promises the work, and he keeps his own promise by returning to it every day. There is less glitter now and more meaning. The gestures are smaller, the impact is greater, and the voice, lined with years, carries not only notes, but a life well lived. He does not chase what has passed. He invites it to sit beside the present, and together they make something sturdy, something that lasts. And if you are still here with us, watching to this very moment, surely you feel what we feel, that some voices do more than entertain, they keep us company, and they help us carry what we cannot carry alone. If his songs have ever kept you company, would you share a memory in the comments? The track that found you, the concert you still remember, the person you think of when his voice begins. If this tribute speaks to you, please consider subscribing so we can meet again and honor the artists who shaped our lives.